Another important part of my work deals with services. And in particular, I've been looking at the role of services in the strategy and the life cycle of product companies. I didn't come to this topic randomly, I would say, and I was really pulled toward it as the software product business very much over the last 10 years has become a services business. I started noticing that a lot of the software product companies I was studying, companies like SAP and Oracle, for example, were getting increasing amounts of their revenues from services of different types, but not from selling products. And other companies like Salesforce.com started offering products as a service. You've probably heard the term software as a service. And then the broader term cloud computing. So this led to the second principle in my book, that managers, particularly your product companies, need to think about the role of services in their companies and not just think about their product business. And as I looked at that phenomenon a bit more broadly, I discovered that services are pervasive. And again, it does depend on how you define what a service is, but in many cases, I've concluded that products, or what we normally think of as products, are really just mechanisms or platforms, for delivering services. And the real money, the real revenue and profits over time come in the form of services. One great example, again, is the smartphone, right? The smartphone is a little box. Apple can charge a fairly high price for its devices, but you can also get an Apple iPhone I got one for $49, for example, but with a 2-year service contract. So actually the money is flowing to the service companies, and it's also flowing into other service delivery platforms like iTunes, for example, or Netflix. And certainly the internet services and telephony services, but the amount of revenue that a smartphone will generate over time is enormous on the services side, but relatively small on the actual product sale. So this is an example of how services really are taking over revenues and profits, whereas in years past, companies used to sell products and basically be content selling products. So a company like Apple, for example, if it's not getting part of that service revenue, it's leaving enormous amounts of money on the table, so to speak. And some of that is good for its partners and some of it is bad, particularly if its prices decline or have to go down because of competition. And if you've noticed, companies like Samsung and Nokia and HTC have already copied the iPhone design, and it's making it increasingly difficult to sell products like the iPhone at high prices. I also notice, looking at the automobile industry, that a tremendous amount of revenue and especially profit in the auto industry comes not from selling the products, it comes from services. And again, companies in the auto business can make a decision as to what parts of those services they want to be in themselves versus let other companies or partners handle. But for example, an automobile might cost $20,000, but over its lifetime of use, it could easily generate 3 times that amount of money in different kinds of service revenues. And by services here, I mean financial services. This is interest on loans or leases, but also other things such as extended warranties and insurance payments, maintenance and repair. Nowadays we have telematics services for the automobile. And so the automobile has really become a service generation platform. And companies that don't understand that actually are relegated to essentially selling the product. But in the long run, I think companies really need to have a broader strategy and see the role of services. And I should mention as well that services are not just a mechanism for generating revenue or profit. They're also a source of information about your customer, how your customer is using the product. and how you can make the product better or offer different features that customers will use more. So there's a lot of knowledge about customer usage and behavior that comes to a product company through services. And again, this is not a novel discovery, and I could go on in many other examples, but companies like General Electric discovered years ago that not only is there enormous money in financial services, but they have these large maintenance groups for aircraft engines or locomotives and other heavy equipment, and they can actually provide maintenance services to other companies, not just to their own customers. And so these kinds of maintenance services, as well as warranties and leasing and combining that with insurance, have been a huge source of revenue and profit for a company like General Electric, that we think of as a product company with a financial services arm, but they're really tied together in very interesting and strategic ways.